Well, while this presentation will have a hyper focus with our little Einsteins, if you teach an upper grade, we encourage you to be creative on how one can apply and integrate technology tools or ideas into their classroom. So let's begin with our presentation. First, we would like to briefly introduce ourselves. My name is Carmen McKinnon. I'm the DLS at K Tarver Elementary, and my co-presenter is.
Hi, everyone. I'm Cristina Quiroga. I'm a DLS for Santo Niño Elementary.
As we begin today's presentation, we are interested in who is joining us today. We have a short activity for you to do so we can learn more about you. So as you see in the chat, Christina has linked the presentation. Once you click there and go to this slide, it is slide number 4. If you click on the All About Me in the middle, it will take you to that slide. Remember, read the questions and fill it out with your responses. We will give everyone about 5 minutes to start off this activity and make sure you're creative because we'll be sharing the responses. That's the timer. If you're still in Nearpod and Christina's showcasing the teacher view on your end, you're going to have a blue button at the bottom that says submit. Once you submit, we'll be able to see your response. Okay, we'll start off with my response. I believe you have it right there, Christina. So all about me. Like I said, my name is Carmen McKinnon. I'm a DLS. My favorite food at the moment is Indian/Thai food. My favorite subject is science. I really love science. And most recently, I've gotten into history. My favorite activities are going for walks in the park or a hike. My favorite educational digital tools are Nearpod, Screencastify, and I can't see what I put at the bottom. Classroom Screen.
Classroom screen.
Classroom Screen, which we'll be going over with you today. And my spring break plans are I put a picture of Enchanted Rock, which is located in Fredericksburg. I'm hoping to have the opportunity to go for a second time to hike up all the way to the top. It's a very nice experience, but I learned my lesson the hard way. I went in the summer and I almost was dehydrated. So I would not recommend going in summer unless you go very early in the morning when it's nice and cool. So that is why I'm hoping to go during spring break and hoping for the best weather.
Awesome. And like I mentioned earlier, I'm Cristina Quiroga, also a DLS at Santo Nino. My favorite food, pretty simple. I love a sandwich with tomato soup. My favorite subject is English language arts. I love making playlists for my music. And my favorite educational digital tools are Kami, Screencastify, GoNoodle, and Nearpod. And we'll be going over GoNoodle today in this presentation. And my spring break plans are to probably spend most of the time with my sister up in San Antonio. She lives up there, and we want to go visit the silos in Waco because we haven't gone in a very long time, and we want to see what's new over there. And let me switch over to the teacher view. So Carmen, you can maybe see what some other people have submitted. So we have right here, Ms. Rodas. She says she likes Mexican, Thai, and pizza. She loves social studies and technology, puzzles and games, and her favorite digital tools are Nearpod, Google Workspace, and Seesaw. Awesome. And catch up on errands. That's what she's going to do during spring break, which I think a lot of us are as well. And here we have Ms. Aguilar. She favorite food, enchiladas, reading, and painting. And Google Slides, Nearpod, and Google Forms are her favorite digital tools. And of course, relax for that much needed spring break. And then lastly, Ms. Rios. She's a counselor, awesome. And favorite food, tacos, subject math, activity is reading. She loves Nearpod. Ooh, she's going to Cancun and Disney World. That's awesome.
Nice.
That's an awesome spring break right there. Cool. Well, thank you so much for participating. I'm going to head back to our presentation and we're going to carry on.
I'm going to go over to the next slide. Thank you. John Dewey was quoted as saying, "If we teach today the way we taught yesterday, we rub our students up tomorrow." So there's a video here that I wanted to share with you really quick. And after the video's done, I want you to share what you got from the video in the chat. Go ahead and play it, Christina. We're going to play the whole video.
Say, what's happening?
I'm looking at the foot.
You're looking at the foot. Come on now, this could be somebody. Come on. I'm gonna point to a bone, and I want you to tell me what it is.
I'm looking at the foot again.
Yeah, you looking at the foot again. Well, okay, let's just, that leg came off, I almost peed on myself. Okay, okay. What is this? And tell me, you have to tell me the name of it.
The foot. The foot. The ancient Romans were the first to make right and left shoes.
Huh?
Before that, shoes to be worn on either foot. Isn't that silly?
Yeah. Okay, what is this right here?
The pelvis. It's the only bone in the body that's gender specific, which means it's different in boys and girls.
Is it?
Yes. The pelvis's job to protect the organs used for digesting and reproduction, which means throwing babies.
So, as you can see, we witnessed a video. Share your thoughts on what we think about this little girl, what she answered in the chat. Yeah, so I placed my 2 cents too, which is something we both noticed. She's very, very knowledgeable in the anatomy of the bones and even had a back history of it. Research shows that technology can awaken the minds of little ones. If we teach our littles to make connections, they will recall facts much easier. We are setting them up for a lifetime of impactful learning. And just like we witnessed in the video, kids at that age, their brains are like sponges, so they're ready to absorb a lot of information that we share with them. And we have to be mindful of what we want them to learn. Next slide, Christina. Today, we will explore activities that will assist our early learners in becoming little tech Einsteins when using digital tools in our classroom. As our students, we hope you will understand how to use the different ed tech tools and activities to help your students become digital learners. I will now pass the mic to my co-presenter, Ms. Quiroga.
So in our agenda today, we're going to be looking at what routines and transitions you can set up in your classroom, some online activities you can integrate into your lessons, literacy skills and some digital resources for those, and math skills and some digital resources as well for that. So the first topic we're going to be going over is routines and transitions. And actually, let me switch over the way I'm presenting because I'm going to be switching the different tabs. So I want to make sure you can see all of my screen. So like I was saying, we are going to be going over routines and transitions first. These are important because they help your students meet expectations for how they interact with each other and their learning environment. So let's take a look at a few of those. The first one is classroom screen, and we're going to focus on how to power up your mornings and set up little morning routines for your students. So if you're looking for a digital whiteboard for your classroom, then Classroom Screen is the best tool, one of the best tools that you can use. It is a website that includes 19 widgets or tools so that you can create clear expectations for your students, support your time management, and collect feedback and so much more. You can do a lot with this Classroom Screen. So once you've logged in with your school account, you can start creating different collections that you can showcase to your students. One thing I do want to point out before I kind of show you all the features of this website is that on the free version, you cannot save your collection. So you would kind of have to build one every single day unless you decide to upgrade on your own, then you can start saving those collections. But once you log in, you can start creating a new screen. So when I open up a new screen, it does give me a random background, but I can change that down here at the bottom with all of my widgets or my tools. So I'm going to showcase them today so you can kind of see what you can do on a classroom board. The first one is background. Like I mentioned, they have some selected ones that you can choose from, or you can upload your own background that maybe you created on Canva or Google Slides. So I'm going to switch out the background. Next, we have poll. So if you want to, get a feel of how your students are doing for a lesson, what they thought of your lesson, or you just want to get some feedback from your students, you can start a poll with your classroom. You can select what type of question you want to ask them, whether that be a multiple choice question, a smileys, or a true or false. So I'm just going to select smileys. From here, you can type in your question. They already have one generated for me. What did you think of today's lesson? And then I can select my answer options. From there, your students can go to this website, joincrs.com. And then it'll ask them for a code, which is also on the screen here. And you can get that feedback. They can answer your question on the screen. It might take a little while for me. Let's see if it goes through. I'll give it a little bit of time, but they'll just have the question on their screen and then they can select what their answer is. And then you get in real time all of their feedback. If you have students that maybe take long with typing in a website, it also has a QR code version as well, so they can scan with their iPads or use their Chromebooks to scan their QR code, because Chromebooks do also have that capability. Oh, I guess it ran out. That's okay. We'll just skip on that one, but you'll see, they'll be able to see it on their end. Next, we have random name. So if you're someone who likes to use popsicle sticks in their classroom to select a student, you can make that digital instead using classroom screen. So all you would have to do is type in your students' names. And I'll just type in a few here. And then you just click and it'll select a student for you. Next to that, we have a QR code generator. So if there's a website you want your students to go to and you want to make it faster on your end, just copy and paste any link there, and it'll generate the QR code for you, and your students can scan it using their devices. Next is Sound Level. It's a great class management tool, especially if you like your students to work in groups or in partners. This is excellent if they need to start controlling their voices so they don't get too loud. What's great about this is you'll notice when it hits the red, I can turn on my little bell here, and it'll kind of ding to let them know, hey guys, you're getting a little too loud for this activity that you're doing. And I can control the sensitivity of how loud they're getting here. Next to that, we have images, pretty self-explanatory. You can upload any image from your device and it will save them on classroom screens, so you can pull them up whenever you need to and have that already set on your page. Next to that, we have text. So if you need to write your agenda for the day, you can type it in here and it'll be set for your classroom screen, or any notes you need to share with your students. They can also be written there. You can change the font, the color, what you would typically do on like a word processing program. Next is a drawing tool. So also another self-explanatory. You can use that to work out problems on your classroom screen. Then we have work symbols, another great classroom management tool. So if you have students working on an activity, you can leave this up so that they know the behavior expectation for that activity. It can be split with her, ask neighbor, or work together. So you can also leave that up for your class. Traffic light, you can use that to check for understanding or as another classroom management tool. timer, which we often use in class. So we have a built-in timer. This website has a built-in timer for you as well. And then a few more other widgets is a calendar, a dice, but the one that I found pretty interesting was this embed code. So let's say you have a presentation you need to share with your students, but you don't want to be flipping back and forth between maybe your classroom screen and the presentation. You can add this presentation onto your classroom screen so that everything is in one place. So just to show you very briefly what that would look like, when I hit File, Share, and publish it to the web, here next to link, I'll get embed. I just have to copy this code, paste it onto here, and now I'll have my presentation on the same screen, and I'm not flipping back and forth between different links, or sorry, different tabs. And I can use the presentation, go through it, click anything on the presentation, and it'll work. So a lot of websites have that embedded code. Google Forms has it. Slides, like you just saw, and Nearpod also has embedded code. So instead of having different tabs, you can put everything on your classroom screen ready to go. So just to showcase what maybe a classroom screen would look like in your classroom, I created this one as a little morning routine. I created the background on Canva, but you can also create this on Google Slides as well. I included my calendar for my students. When I was teaching, I always did a class pledge with my students. They had to say this out loud with everybody and then give everyone a high five. So I made sure I included that in my morning routine, and I have it here posted so that we can make sure we do that. And then I posted my agenda, our word of the week, which I typically go over almost daily with our students. And then also, which is new this year, or this year, last year was our SEL. So I also included a little SEL page for my students, and I gave them several options. So for example, option 1, they can work on with a partner. Option 2, we all watch a video together and we work on it together. Or option 3, they can do a Nearpod on stress. So I can put it up to a poll, which activity do you want to do today? And they can vote on which SEL activity they want to do. And I created all of this on classroom screen, aside from the background, which was Canva. I just wanted to showcase what that could possibly look like in your classroom when you want to set up a little morning routine for your students. The next we have, hold on, this is not, okay. Next we have GoNoodle, which is another website that can be used in your classroom. It's a website that gets your students moving with short interactive videos, and it keeps them engaged and motivated throughout the day. So let me go ahead and showcase that one for you. So this one's GoNoodle. I can attest that as a teacher, I did use this website often with my students, and I found that they really love this website. I used it often as like a brain break or as a reward or to keep them focused before we start a lesson in the class. So it is free for educators. You just have to sign up with your school email, and it's pretty much unlimited with all the videos. You can watch as many as you want with your class. You can save as many as you want with your class. So once you create an account, it will ask you to create a classroom. And I always like to get my students involved in this process because when you create a classroom, you have to select a character. So I will put it to a vote with my students, which character do you want to be? And they would all, get really excited. So we all had a different character. As you start watching videos on GoNoodle, your character will start to level up and kind of reach its final form at the end. So my students were always like, well, we're going to behave so that we can watch a video at the end of the day because we want our little character to grow. So as you can see at the bottom, the little progress bar is where you can see how much your character has grown. But that is your classroom. Now onto the main page. Here we have Discover. These are just some recommended videos or some new videos that have come out on GoNoodle that you can kind of explore with your class. But where you'll probably spend the majority of your time is in categories. So GoNoodle has already organized all of their videos into different categories. So we have curricular, SEL and mindfulness, sensory and motor skills, school life videos, and movement type. So you can kind of check out all the little subcategories to see which type of video you want to show your students. So just to give you an example, let's say you want to do an SEL video, you can check out any of these here. And let's say I want to do this one. It'll curate a whole list of videos that have to do with SEL. And I can kind of preview all of them. If I like any of the videos, just make sure you favorite it so that you can always come back to it and save it in your favorites so it's easier to access. For each video, it'll tell you what type of activity you'll be doing. So this one is a breathing exercise. This is a brainer-size one. Some of them have freestyle. Some of them are workout style videos where the kids need to follow along. So it depends on what you want to do with your classroom. When you're ready to watch the video, you simply just have to click on it and it'll start playing. But if you want your students to view it on their own time or however you want to set it up in your class, you can share it via link on Remind or connect your Google Classroom as well, just to make it easier to share out that video with your students. So once you start seeing a lot of videos, you'll probably notice that you tend to watch the same content creators from this. And if that is the case, you can always just go to their channel. I know in my classroom, we saw the Think About It. My students really liked that channel because it was a lot of little breathing exercises or like stretching exercises that we would do before we started switching to our first block and our second block. So they really like this one a lot. And then for their reward, they always loved Awesome Sauce. These were dancing videos. They were workout videos. So it was kind of like an indoor recess time with them. So they really liked that channel as well. So as once you start kind of exploring this website, you'll kind of get a feel of which channels your students like. And then lastly on GoNoodle, it's a fairly new section, is curricular resources. So under curricular resources, we have guides. These are also curated playlists for certain subjects that you want to go over with your students. So let's say you want a lesson on showing your thanks and gratitude. If you click on that, it'll give you a little mini playlist on videos that have to do with showing thanks and gratitude. Now, if you want to extend your students' learning, head over to Learning Extensions. They have some pre-made activities and handouts that go along with videos within GoNoodle. So let's say I want to do this one, a caring video. I can just download and print this out for my students, and they can work on it after they watch the video, which is down here. So they always link the video that goes with each handout together. So you don't have to worry about creating your own anymore. You can just use what's already been made on GoNoodle. And they're just not only limited to SEL, these are all the activities they have for learning extension. They even have some activities in Spanish as well. And then lastly are question sets. So if you want to gamify your questions, you can select the ones that are already pre-made, or you can create your own question set. So just to give you an example, let's say I'm covering plural nouns in my classroom. I can look through each question just to make sure it is aligning to what I'm teaching in the class. And if I feel like, okay, this is perfect for my students, then I can play the set with my students. It's going to ask me to select a game. You can put this to a vote with your kids, or you can just pick it for them. So let's say I want to play this question set with a Freeze It game. So I would open that up, and it's going to load the game for me. And what you would do here is whenever the students see the word dance, they start dancing. And then once they see the word freeze, they freeze and they answer the question. So right now your students can get up, they're starting to dance, they're having fun. And then it'll say freeze in a moment. And then you can choose a student to answer, or you can have the whole class shout out an answer. So let's say the answer is posters, correct, and then they move on and they do that over and over until they're done with the quiz. So it's just a fun way to review something in your class, and so they're learning and having fun at the same time. So that is Go Noodle. It is free for educators. Just make sure you sign up with your Google, with our district account. Another great resource you can use to create transitions or routines in your classroom are calm rooms. So we have a folder here for you filled with different calm rooms. And these are curated Google Slides that provide students with serene videos that can be viewed as either a class, or they can see it individually if you add it to a Google Classroom. So just to take a look at this one, here is one calm room. It has all these different objects and images, and they can click on them and it'll take them to a certain slide. So let's say I choose jellyfish for the day. It's going to give me a little video of just jellyfish kind of swimming around. This is a 3-hour video, but obviously your students won't watch it for the 3 hours, but maybe they can do this before they transition to their next class or before the class begins to kind of calm them down and get them ready for the lesson ahead. And any little object here will take them to a slide having to do with that picture. If this is something you want to share out with your students, just make sure you make a copy first, and then you can add it to your Google Classrooms. If you're not going to be sharing it out with your students, then you can just go straight to this folder and just display it in your classroom. We have other versions of it here as well that you can explore. And then lastly, for routines and transitions, we have brain break videos. So on this link, we just made a list of different videos that your students can watch. So in this case, we have Encanto themed videos that are either dance alongs or follow along videos that they can watch together as a class, or you can just post it for them. So if this is something you would want to share with your students, just one little FYI, if you're sharing a YouTube video with your students and you don't want any of these little distractions or suggested videos on the side, to get rid of all of those, if you go to the link at the top where it says YouTube, next to the letter T, type in a hyphen and then click enter. And it will be in full screen mode, and they will not be able to exit out of here. It's just going to stay in full screen mode. So that's a really great little piece of advice if you want to share YouTube videos with your students, but get rid of all the little distractions on the side. So moving on with some more routines and transitions, another great tool that you can use to establish routines in your classroom or to make your classroom a little bit more interactive is using QR codes. So QR codes are not only great for sharing links with your students, but you can use them in different ways also. One way you can use QR codes is to create maybe a little section in your class where they have digital read alouds, and all they have to do is scan with their iPad or their Chromebook, and it'll take them to read alouds, online read alouds for different books. Another way you can use QR codes is through word walls. So if you want to make your word wall a little bit more interactive, you can place different QR codes around the words that you have there, and it can link to maybe a YouTube video with a further explanation on that word, or maybe a little matching activity. Really, the sky's the limit with what you want to do with a word wall, or maybe just some more infographics on that word. So you can kind of create an interactive word wall using QR codes. You can also create self-assessments for your students. In this case, they would solve this problem, and then they'll scan the QR code to check their work to make sure they are correct with that problem. And to give you more examples, you can even use a QR code for a digital restroom pass or just a digital pass in general. I know at my campus, when I was teaching, we were required to have a QR code in our classroom that our students would have to scan whenever they were leaving the class, or we would just have an iPad set up. And I just wanted to showcase what a restroom pass, a digital restroom pass can look like. So this was a few years ago at Santo Niño. This was our digital restroom pass, our digital hall pass, sorry. So the student would provide their name. They would have to specify, where are they going? Are they leaving? Are they returning? Or were they tardy that day? If they were leaving, they had to tell us, where they were going. So for example, if they were going to the library, they would also have to check in at the library and then check out. If they were going to the nurse, she would have them check in as well, just to kind of keep track of where everyone was going. And you can make this into a QR code as well in your class to establish that routine with your students. You can also create QR codes for virtual field trips as well, or just for infographics and notes around your classroom, like digital notes around your classroom. So QR codes are really easy to produce now because you don't have to use an extension anymore. We don't have to go to a separate website. Google Chrome has already a built-in QR code creator. To do that, you would just come up here where we have our bookmark tab or our little star. Next to it, under the share that, or next to it was the share this page. If you click on that, you can create a QR code from there. So that's the easiest way now to create QR codes. Just click the share, create it, and you can download it. Just don't change anything in this box or it will mess up the QR code. Just download, and now you can create QR codes with any links that you have available online. You can do the same thing for all your Google Forms as well. The only thing is there is an extra step for Google Forms. Instead of sharing this QR code from here, you can't, because this is the editing version of this form. You want to share out a QR code for the link for this form. So under send, just grab that link that you would typically share with your students, paste it on a new tab, and now I can create a QR code from there. Those are QR codes. And then next, I just wanted to feature a few extensions that could be helpful in your classroom, some Google extensions. Here we have a list of a lot of different extensions, but I'm only going to highlight a few that I've used or that I found pretty useful in my classroom. The first one is Talk and Comment. It does let you create voice notes inside any web, like any of our Google apps, basically, like our Docs, our Classroom, Forms. You can create a little voice note within all of those documents. So once you download it onto your Google Drive, your Google extensions, you'll get this little widget here. And this is what you would click to start recording. So to show you that, let's say I have this little activity for my students that I want them to complete, but I know I have maybe some struggling readers, or I just want to make a voice note of me explaining what they're going to do on this assignment. Then I would just pull up this little widget, and then I can say, okay, boys and girls, on this activity, you're going to be telling me who were the characters in Sylvester and the Magic Pebble, what was the setting of the story, and then let me know what your favorite part of the story is. Once I'm done recording, I click that little green arrow, and then I can double check my recording. If it's fine, then I copy this link and I paste it on my document. And then when my students get this document, once they click the link, it'll just generate a little play button for them and they can listen to my instructions. This also works for Google Forms as well. So if I open up my previous Google form, I can type my question here. Let's say it's question 2. Add a description. and then paste that same link there. And when my students see it on their end, all they get is the little voice note underneath. So I can have the question at the top and then my recording of that question underneath. So again, a really great option if your students need that for their assignments. Another extension that I wanted to mention is Immersive Reader. This can read aloud any text that's on the web, and it can also provide some additional reading supports as well. So let's say I have this article that my students need to read in class. Once I download the extension, the student or you can do is highlight the text that needs to be read to them, click, and then select Help Me Read This. It's going to open up a new tab. Well, it's the same tab, and now they can click play, and it'll read the text to them. And I can have some text preferences, maybe making the text smaller or bigger, the font, change the font as well, and the background color, because I know some students benefit from that. And I can also turn on the parts of speech as well. And I can also do line focus, whether they only focus on one line or several lines as it's reading it to them. So that is Immersive Reader. And then the last extension I just wanted to go over with you is Mercury Reader. So this extension, it removes any ads or distractions that are on a website so that students are only focused on the article that you were sending to them or whatever website you're sending to them. So here we have a lot of little distractions here. Once I use Mercury Reader, it will remove all of them. So all I have to do is go to that extension and it removes everything and it only leaves the article behind. So this is great for maybe your students that might get distracted with anything that's around the website. So those are the three I wanted to highlight. There are more here, but I thought those were kind of ones that you can use immediately in your classroom. And then lastly, for routines and transitions are just some more SEL resources that you can use in your classroom. The first one is a little SEL room. So although it is geared more towards counseling, it's still really useful for a classroom as well. Here we have a library. So if you have your students who love to read, but you want them to read more SEL books, we have a library here for them. And let's say you're covering friendship that week, you can go to slide 10 and it'll have books already linked based on friendship, on the topic of friendship. We also have break rooms in there as well. So all of these are little activities that they can go to, a little Rubik's cube, an online Etch-a-Sketch. So this is just a break room. You can use it as a reward for your students. There's also a calm, kind of like how I showed you earlier, those calm rooms. Same concept here, but it's just all in one place. And then lastly is a sensory room as well. So they can have a digital fidget spinner that they can just spin around. They have videos on slime, sand, lava lamps. So these are all just linked to either videos or online versions of those little activities. So it's a really great option to share with your students. If this is something you want to use with your students, just make sure you make a copy before you post it onto your classroom. Under Good Morning, Rise and Shine, these are to establish routines within your classroom. There's different versions of them, but I'll showcase the first one because it does have a year's worth or a school year's worth of daily morning meetings or morning routines for your classroom. Once you make a copy of it, you can edit it however you see fit. But it does include a greeting that your students would do, a little video they need to watch, something they share with the class. There you can input your SEL question of the day, quote of the day, and maybe a little poll. So this is already a year's worth of morning meetings for your students that you can utilize in your classroom. There's also different versions of it here as well, and you can see which one would work best for your students. And then for the next one, building community, it's the same concept, those morning meetings. It's just more resources. Maybe they're a little bit more thematic. Like the first one is a Black Panther one. So if you have kids that love Avengers, you can use that. Or a Monsters Inc. Themed one. So it's the same concept of building those morning routines, but you can just edit them however you see fit for your class. And then the last one is how are you feeling folder. So if you want to, gauge how your students are doing that day, maybe before you get started with the lesson, you can use these really fun slides to kind of see, okay, well, how do you feel on a scale of groundhog? And they can kind of tell you their answer or fill out a poll using Classroom Screen. And you can use this in your class as well. There's a huge list here of how are you feeling. They even have some pop culture ones, maybe for our older students, like a Friends one. Maybe not the Kanye West one. We could probably skip that one, but they have like Michael Scott, Beyonce. So maybe for more like your older students would probably enjoy that as well. So those are mood scales. It's a whole folder full of them that you can share out or just post in your classroom. All right, so we're gonna pause there for a moment, and we wanna kind of see, from the resources that I just shared with you all, which ones do you feel are the most useful for your classroom, or what would you like to implement the most in your class? If you do have a copy of this presentation, you can click the link to let us know, or you can just go to that Nearpod and it'll take you to our collaborative board. We probably won't do the full 7 minutes, maybe like 2 or 3 minutes, and just to see what you guys enjoyed from those resources. And I'll
We
also
like to
put the
do
link
too.
in the chat as well.
I like the brain breaks, Christina. Those are really cute.
Yeah, they're
And of
fun,
course,
right? There's so
also,
many. Huh?
I hadn't had a chance to see all the social emotional ones. Those are really nice. I really like the sensory room one.
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of really cool activities in there that I didn't even know existed. So I was like, wow, this is amazing. Let me go to the teacher view.
So just like Ms. Quiroga shared, she is doing a discussion on Nearpod. It was gonna be a short, I think she said 2 or 3 minutes, but after you finish answering, feel free to take a break. I know that we shared a lot of resources at the moment and come back so we can continue with the presentation. timers counting down there. I hope everyone's enjoyed their little break and was able to answer the discussion that we have on Nearpod and share what you would like to incorporate or what you've already done. So we'll be starting again. And I just tested one of the tips that Christina shared, which is with the YouTube hyphen, and it worked immediately. So awesome. Thanks for sharing that, Christina.
Yes, no problem. Thank you all for sharing also. So now we're going to just take a look at some online activities for your students. The first one is Wakelet. So Wakelet is a website that allows you to organize all of your content into visual collections that you can share with your students, with your parents, or with your colleagues as well. You can create newsletters. You can have a weekly activities on there, study guides. So you can gather multimedia content from the web, like websites, articles, videos, images, and make them into structured collections. So let's take a look at that website. It is free. All you have to do is sign up with your school account or a personal account. I would suggest your school one, just so you can keep it all like in one place. So just to give you an example, this is a Wakelet that I made for my staff for a staff development that I did in January. As you can see, I have all of the images and links that I was going to go over that day with them. So I have the link to our staff development to register. I was going to go over Google Classroom with them. We wrote out our goals on a Jamboard, and then all the resources that I went over that day. So it's just kind of a place where I can add everything that I'm going to cover in one place, any links that I need to share out, so they're not in multiple places. So another way you can use this, or that I've used this, is for Read Across America. I created this instead of having all of my links or images that I want to share stacked on top of each other. I went ahead and made them into columns. So this can work for maybe a weekly study guide for your students, or if you need to share with your parents, like these are the vocabulary words. This is the story they need to read for Tuesday. You can also do that as well. So I just made it this way for Read Across America. We have our Monday. This was the book that they were going to cover, the activity, and then a link to the video as well for that book. Same thing for Tuesday and Wednesday and so on. So once you start creating collections, it's super easy to use. All you have to do is paste any website onto there, and it'll just make a little like square for you for that website. You can also add text, images from your computer. You can upload PDFs. You can also upload a PDF. And you can also tie in your Google Drive as well. So if you have a form or slides that you need to share, you can just put it on here and it'll just have it on the page. And your students don't have to go to all these different places, or you can use this as like a website for your parents so that they know what's going on in your classroom as well. It's a really easy website to use. It's just a matter of pasting any link you want, and the website will do it for you and generate that link for you. If you don't want to create your own website, you can always explore what other people have created. So here on the side, we have linked for Kinder, websites that have to do with Kinder. For example, this one is Sight Words for kindergartners, and they already have YouTube videos already linked for you. And for first grade, same thing. You can check out what people have made for first grade as well. This teacher made a read aloud Wakelet for her class. And if this is something you'd want to share with your students, just click that share button and it can create a QR code for you. There's the embed code that I went over for Classroom Screen. You can embed a Wakelet on there, or you can connect it straight to your Google Classroom as well. So Wakelet, an excellent resource when you want to get all of your materials and put them in one place. And then next, for online activities, if you want to use, for those of you who love using all of our Google applications, we have some links here for you for drag and drop activities. This first one is just a list of Google Slides that utilize drag and drop. So for example, if you're sorting shapes or if your students are learning to sort shapes, this is what it would look like on their end. All they do, drag and drop those little objects. Here is the template. All you have to do is click on that link and make a copy of that Google slide, and it's ready to go and use in your classroom. From there, and it has several copies, so you don't have to worry about making different copies. It already has them all there for you. And when you're ready, you can just share it out with your students. So these are all a list of different drag and drop activities for your classroom. Choice boards too, we have a few choice board templates as well. If you're someone who loves using choice boards in their classroom, you don't have to start from scratch. We have all these templates there for you. Coding is a really excellent activity to do with your students, especially our younger students. They love the VBot, but I know my campus, we only have 2 VBots, so it's hard to share out with everyone. So there is a digital version of a VBot, so you don't have to worry about loaning them out anymore. You can do the digital version instead. So here they have different maps. Let's say you're covering the alphabet that day. You can use this digital one. Let's say they need to get to the letter I, you just need to tell the B where to go. So he needs to go forward, forward, and then I click go, and it'll code him to get to that letter. If he needs to get to the letter H, then he has to turn and then go forward, and it'll code him to go there. So now you have a digital version kind of to motivate your students to learn, but also like have fun at the same time. Math manipulatives, I know Carmen will be going over those a bit more in her section, but I just wanted to show you them very briefly. We have resources here if you're doing the number line in your class or fractions in your classroom. We have some great websites that have digital manipulatives for you to use in your class. And let me go to my clocks or money pieces. Also, those are here as well. So you can have all these manipulatives in your classroom. And another great website for manipulatives is Toy Theater. They have all these different subjects that you can use. If you're covering fractions, you can use the fraction strip, and you can just share out this link with your students and they can work on it together with you or on their own whenever they're working on their homework or something. So we have this whole list here as well as some for reading. So if you're going over alphabetical order, they just drag and drop the letters into each square. So Toy Theater is a great website to use for that. If you want a brain break for your student, just some fun websites that they can use for digital coloring books, it takes any image that you have on your computer and it converts them into a coloring page. So if I want to make a coloring page of my Bitmoji, I can upload it here and it'll generate a coloring page. It's not perfect, but it's something, right? You can download it and print it for your students and they can kind of color in your little Bitmoji. And if you have students who love going on virtual field trips, we also have a list here full of virtual field trips for your students. We have live cameras of the San Diego Zoo on here. So if that's something you feel your students would love to watch, we have a whole list of virtual field trips for your students. So here's a live cam of the San Diego Zoo, the tiger sanctuary area. So those are some online activities. And now I'm going to pass it over to Carmen. She's going to cover some literacy skills for you.
Thank you for sharing, Christina. So let's go over some examples of literacy skills. Okay, wait, hold on. I'm going to share the screen. This is where we're at, right? Yes. Okay. Does everyone see that? Christina, can you just say yes? I
Yes,
can't see.
yes, we can see it. Mhm.
So now we'll be going over literacy skills being integrated with technology. The first we have is Flip, formerly known as Flipgrid. Flip is a website that allows and encourages student discussions via video recording. Flip is a great tool to check for student understanding, especially for our students who are very shy and don't want everyone to see them. How can a teacher integrate this in the classroom? Here I have an example of the dope word practice. Retelling, oh, let me go back really quick. Here I have an example of the dope practice. It's going to be a really short video, and they're going over.
This is my sight word. I like to go to the park when I'm old or 3.
So it's a really good
This-
example also because here, like I said, some students might be shy and they don't want to speak in front of the whole classroom. I have seen, especially like in pre-kinder 4 classrooms, they're there playing around, but then when you ask them to come up in front of everybody, they become like little mice. You can't hear what they're saying. You keep telling them to repeat themselves and to get louder. But Flip has opportunity for them. Okay, no one can see me. I'm just going to look at the camera and I'm going to say what I want to. Just a quick example. Let me go back. And then another example that we have is retelling the story. Here in this example, students are learning about history. So they're going to say, what is the history of George Washington? What was his role?
Hi, I'm George Washington, and during the American Revolution, I was Commander-in-Chief. Revolution means to change. Once I became president, my top priority was the economic state of the U.S., economic meaning money. In my farewell address, I had warned the nation about making alliances, alliance meaning friends.
Here, for example, it is a history lesson, but we can always read a story to our students, like the three Goldilocks, is that the story? And then have them interpret what they understood from the story. So practice their storytelling skills. The next one we have is fluency checks.
Hi, my name is Kimberly. Today I'm gonna read Baby Brother. One day my baby brother. Hi, my name is Kimberly. Today I'm gonna read Baby Brother. One day my baby brother came home. He was little. He cried all the time. He had to have my parents help him. He could not do things I could do. I was tired of hearing him cry. Then one day he smiled at me. I let him coat my finger. I made a funny face.
I won't play the whole video, but you get an understanding of having the students verbally practice what they're saying. And then here I did one just so you could see how easy it is to use. I created an account and I just showcased my name. So maybe you could do this at the beginning with students to record themselves saying, hi, my name is, and this is what I'm excited about, pre-kinder or kinder first. Oh, like I said, it's just an opportunity for them to video record themselves. And most of the kids, when they do use this, they really love they really love enjoying watching themselves. And then they can say, oh, this is what I said, but this is what it shouldn't be. And other kids can come in and check and say, this is what you meant, not this, right? And the teachers can watch the videos as well. Instead of reading over and over, they can just hear their students. Another example we have is Nearpod. So here, if you click on CVC practice words, you're going to join us from the student view. And one of the great things about Nearpod, there's also already lessons there. There's a library for you. But here's an example of CVC words. So we have the picture and it'll be easy just to match. They're asking the student, where is the cup? Cup. Draw a little line and match it to the cup. The next is lip. Have the lip and match it to the lip. and then they can submit it there. So fairly forward. Let's go to blends and diagraphs. This is the next one. I joined the lesson. And here, also like I mentioned, or I forgot to mention, is that you can do Nearpod as an exit ticket. Here they go over the standard tweaks. You could do it as a whole group in front of everybody, or have, like Christina had mentioned, this is where you can incorporate creating a QR code and have a little section for the students to say, okay, in order for you to, after you finish this assignment, you're going to go to the exit ticket and do the exit ticket. So here we have circle the pictures that begin with the blend. So they're going to have to say it out loud, or we encourage them to say it out loud. Some students may just say, oh, let me read it in my head. Great. Should the student be circling it? No. The crayon color brown. Yes. This is where they should be circling it. Then in the end, you just encourage them to submit so you can see the answers on your end. So I'm going to click submit, and it's going to go to the next one. But let me exit really quick here so you can see what it looks like from the teacher view. So here, this is one of the ones that I submitted, and I have the asterisk. So the asterisk just means that you don't see the student names, but you can always change it to the I by clicking it. And then you'll see, okay, Carmen submitted hers and she only did one. I have to tell her to go back. Or you could tell the student while they're there, make sure you finish. I saw that you didn't finish all of them. They can go scan the QR code or log in back with the code, and they'll take them back to where they were. Let's continue. Another example is spelling. You'll see that you're going to log in again as a student. And for spelling, you also have different options. Here we have the drag and drop. So you can make words by listening and blending the sounds together. So we have the cat. So the student should be able to click C and drag it on over. And then the next one, click A and drag it on over. So those are also different skills that they can practice. We know that the drag and drop has been a big skill that the kids are learning in the lower grades to build on in the upper grades. So remember, for Nearpod, this is where you're checking for understanding. You don't want to necessarily use Nearpod as an, okay, let's introduce a lesson that the kids have never seen before, and then they're going to be kind of lost when they're doing the assignment. You want to do the lesson with the student, frame it, then do some guided work, and then use it as an exit ticket or check for global understanding. And then here we have different resources for you to use for literacy skills. I want to focus on ABC Yeah and Starfall because those are the ones that we see all the time. And the kids really love ABC Yeah. When we click on it, I'm just going to click on Kinder and we're going to go over letters. And you'll see that it is free. The kids already kind of have an idea. Mind you, I know that many teachers, when they do use it, the kids already know this is where I have to click. But to use it intentionally, you want to guide the student. Okay, you're going to click here, and this is what you're going to do.
Dungeon Dash. Letters.
Here we have letters, and I'm going to use adventure. And we're going to go over this letter recognition. Upper letters, and it's going to give them the instructions. In order to play, you need to click or touch the lane and use the arrow keys. Okay. Pass through the doors with the marked uppercase letters. Here they should have a little bit of familiarity of like, okay, how do I get the upper letters? And they're going to say, oh, this is a letter F. If that's not what they were supposed to get, they have to get capital letter. Okay. The next example we have that I wanted to showcase with you is a ABC rainbow. And so here they're just practicing the sequence of ABC. And click continue. and all the letters are mixed up. So here I have the letter V. I need to match it with the letter V. But what happens if one of the students that we know they're going to try to get ahead and be like, well, I'm just going to put the letters anywhere, and then it's going to correct them for me. Well, I'm going to submit. I'm going to check. And it says, uh-oh, you need to keep practicing, keep trying. The letters that are incorrect are going to get dropped, and they're going to have to continue and say, okay, I need to go from the letter E, the letter Y. And let's just say they are really struggling and they keep going. Oh, keep trying. On the lower left, when you click options, you can change it. You can say, let's check the timer. Let's see how long they take. Let's click the color vowels, and let's practice also lowercase. And you'll see that it changes to lowercase. You can put the little timer. Click it. And then they can click the letter and practice. Okay. Let's continue. I know I'm going to kind of go really fast now. Math activities. So Christina was able to share some virtual manipulatives here. I wanted to focus again on my favorite tool, Nearpod. If I click on the number 5, we're going to go to the lesson, and it's going to showcase the number 5. How are different ways that we can do it on Nearpod instead of just doing it on paper? Here's going to go over introduction. How do we reintroduce, reteach the number 5? We go over vocabulary, so we count with the students physically. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then we can show with an image, an icon. This is what 1 looks like. And then we continue. This is what 2 looks like. So on and so forth. 3, 4, and 5. Then they can also go, if you want to introduce, you don't have to use every slide, but for example, how else can I use the number 5? Well, I can say 5 minus 2 is. So here, going to the next slide, there's already a video integrated into the lesson. And we know how students love watching different videos.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 fingers on one hand. 1, 2, 3.
With the base block, this is what it looks like. And the number increases. With this video, it gives the opportunity to check for understanding. Are they paying attention? What does the number 5 make you think of? And this, you can have it as an open question, and kids can say, oh, it makes me think of toads or frogs. And you can continue playing the video. I'm going to continue going to the next slide. And here they have the opportunity to write. So you can do it as a group or individually as an exit ticket. You can write numbers in word form or number form. Directions. First, click on the attached image to see the example. So here I'm going to click instructions to see the whole image. So word form, what does that look like? The number 1. How should I draw the number 1? Is this the number 1? No, it is not. So they can be able to go back and erase and fix it. And the number 1 should look like the number 1. You're going to go back and put number 1. And now they're practicing also pictographs. What does the number 1 look like if it is a heart? They have to draw a heart. And so on and so forth. They fill it out. Here, number 2, I'm filling it with number 2. Number 3, what does that look like? 4, 5, and so on. I think all of you get the gist of what this example is. And it's a very short lesson, like I said, for an exit ticket. The next example I'm going to go over is 2D shapes. I'm going to join as a student. And here it says, shapes are the objects we see every day. Look at each picture and then sort each object to match. So a drag and drop. Here's the shape circle. Which of these objects that I have here is a circle? They click on the object and drag it. Square. Which of these objects is a square? And they continue, so on and so forth. Okay. I'm going to go back. And once again, this is for math skills. I shared Nearpod. We already know what ABC and Starfall looks like. One of the other examples that I wanted to review is Jamboard templates. Just an example. So here we have the growing pattern. If you're interested in making this, make sure you make a copy first before using it. So growing pattern, the student should be able to see blocks and colors. So we see 1 blue, 1 red, 2 blue, 1 red, and it goes on and so forth. They should be able to see 1, 2, 3, and then fill it out. The same thing with the next slide. They see butterflies now, and they continue the pattern. So it's tactile. It's a pretty good example. And the next one was, which Christina mentioned also, toy theater. Here, let's do fruit fall, and then I'll do another one of shapes. So in fruit fall, has to catch the apples. And then it's going to ask, how many apples did you catch? And they're going to create a little graph. So they have to be able to click 5. And then they continue. Let's say he only catches 3 because he wasn't able to go all the way. As it asks, how many apples did you catch? 3. And he creates a little pictograph, which I think is a really neat tool. Oh, and the next one was shapes. Share, let me see. I have to scroll all the way to the bottom. It's kind of like a kid's form of Tetris. I don't know if any of you are familiar with Tetris. I know it's been a while. But here they show. Since it's Tetris, they have to be able to move the shape to have 3 shapes consecutively. And it helps them practice the recognition. Okay. Now, that concludes what we wanted to share as resources. I know that we shared a lot of information. And I know I kind of have to go over really quickly on my part because we're kind of coming towards the end. However, in this slide, we are asking you, how do you feel about today's session? So we have 4 pictures. We have Chandler, Rachel, Joey, and Ross. So we want you to answer, how do you feel about today's session with all the research that we shared with you today? Put it in the chat. I have never watched Friends, so I don't really necessarily know like all the characters and what they're known for, but based on the pictures, you can kind of see what their personalities are like.
Chandler 9, yeah. I like that one too.
Chandler, Joey.
Joey. Which Joey? One.
Oh, it's was. How would you describe it though, Christina? They say Joey, it would be like surprise Joey.
Like it would be like
soft-
Joey 1 or Joey 2.
Oh, okay, there's numbers there.
Yeah.
Little tiny numbers on each
Yeah,
picture.
they're little tiny. Ross 4. Okay. It's a lot of information, I know. But we wanted to give you a lot so you can come back to it whenever you need it. Chandler 4.
3. Oh. We really want to thank you for joining us here today and taking time out to see what resources you can incorporate into your classroom.